286th installment of the Louie Tee Network podcast. Off and running we go. Now, it's Thursday. So I'm treating this like a Friday. Not going to be in the office tomorrow. I'm excited about this pod. Anytime we throw it back, it's a lot of fun. Throwback Thursday. Gather around, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. Your man Louie Tee's got a story to tell. And we'll do that a little bit later on, story time. Remember when? I do. Do you? We'll talk about that. And I've been kind of away from the football news side of things. So some things have happened that I never really got a chance to talk about. So we're going to knock that out today too. So should be a ton of fun. Let's jump right into the proceedings this evening where we start the podcast now. Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie Tee? Welcome to the 286th installment of the Louie Tee Network podcast. I, of course, am your set man, Louie Tee. Thank you for joining me. Hopefully, you can hear my voice. If you cannot hear me, you should be able to hear me now. And just to check, make sure my audio is straight up here. Let's change this audio to make sure that we're Gucci. I don't want any issues with my audio. And we are good. Okay. Gucci. All right. So let's jump into the show today. And I want to start with a Gem Droppin Session. So let's jump right into that. Let me drop this gem on your melon. Open your mind, let your conscience be free. You're now rolling with your man, Louie Tee. Let me open you up. Get you thinking a little bit. So I've been kind of neglecting the actual news around the league because of preseason football and things of that nature. And so some things have happened that I really wanted to talk about, and I always felt like I would circle back around to them, but I actually never did. So I'm going to clean up some messes that I may have made over the last week or so, and then, get you up to speed on some things that have been circulating around the, media outlets and kind of give you my perspective on all of these different topics. So this Gem Droppin Session will act as a de facto in case you missed it. So with that said, let's jump right in. And the first thing I want to talk about are the free agents that are still available. So there are some interesting names on this list, but these are the guys right now that are available. And, when I make a list, when I'm feeling listy, I start listing things, and my lists are usually comprised of 7 items. So the 7 best free agents still available as we near the start of the regular season. And, sometimes veterans have to wait. It's just one of those situations. They draft a guy at that position, or they might have signed some guys in free agency, and they need to see if these guys pan out or not. If you draft a guy in the 3rd round, you need to see if he's ready, or 4th round, see if he's ready, or 5th round, see if he can come in and maybe give you a little bit more than what you were expecting, surprise you a bit and exceed your expectations. If that doesn't happen and you think you're a team, that's ready to win, or you've had an injury. And I think that's ultimately what's going to, force the hand of some of these teams to make a decision, is that you've got an injury or two at a key position and you're a team that thinks they can win this season, and you can't afford to have a guy without experience at that particular position. And so you got to make something happen. Odell Beckham Jr., shame on you if you step to the old dirty Beckham. ODB is still available. And to me, that makes a ton of sense, because he's not going to be ready to help a football team until probably week 8 or so. He literally tore his ACL in the Super Bowl. So I don't think he's going to be ready to help an NFL football team until the mid portion of the season at the earliest. So um, I guess it wouldn't hurt to bring him in so he can start learning the playbook and have that stuff and kind of be up to speed on what's going on. But there's no reason to guarantee his salary for the season or anything of the sort, to be paying him money when he's not going to be able to help your football team yet. So I'm not surprised that he's still on ice right now, but he's still available. And, right now, the likelihood, I think the leader in the clubhouse are the Los Angeles Rams, him returning there. The Buffalo Bills, don't sleep on them as a team that could sneak in there if need be and go and get him. Von Miller, as we talked about last night on the command post with my guy JL Smooth, has been campaigning for Odell Beckham Jr. to sign with the Bills. So I still think there are other teams like Green Bay, for instance. He almost ended up there last year. He could easily end up there this year. They don't have a lot of veterans that they trust. They've got 3 guys that are veterans on that roster, and 2 of the 3 are injury prone. And so at some point, they may need a veteran to come in there in Green Bay and help them. They don't like paying guys outside of their roster. So I don't see Odell Beckham Jr. If they wouldn't pay him last year when they were smack dab in the middle of a Super Bowl run with Devontae Adams, I don't see them paying Odell Beckham Jr. this year when they're definitely not as strong of a team without Devontae Adams. Eric Fisher, the left tackle that was the 2nd overall pick by the Kansas City Chiefs, and then went to the Indianapolis Colts last year in free agency. He was terrible at left tackle. Part of the reason why he's still available is he wasn't very good last season, but he was also coming off of major knee surgery. So that's something to take into consideration. He's only 31 years old. I look at it as a Dwayne Brown situation. Remember, Dwayne Brown, who's pushing 40, was out there as a free agent, and then the Jets had the crushing news that they lost their left tackle, Mekhi Becton, for the season, and that prompted them to go out and get Dwayne Brown. So, in all actuality, the injury that the Cowboys just suffered, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on in the show, may facilitate a move like bringing in Eric Fisher, and there are other guys out there that they could potentially trade for. There's a rumor that the Patriots have their former first-round pick tackle on the trading block. There are, some other options that may be available. That's when the tackle that I'm referring to for New England. Fisher won't cost you any draft capital, won't force you to give up, eat $10 million worth of salary, which is what I think Wynn is making right now. It won't cost you any of that. He won't cost you as much, and he's not as good. He's not good. He's not good at all, actually, right now as it stands. But that could have easily been attributed to him just getting back from the knee injury. Who's to say? But he's available. He's a veteran. And we'll see what, happens. And if any teams have any injuries or have any concerns up front and he gets a call, I surmise that he's not done. Someone will give him a call and he'll be on a roster before the season gets kicked off. Dante Hightower is a very interesting name because I just assumed that he was either going to end up in one or two places, back in New England or in Las Vegas with the Raiders, somewhere where the Patriots are plentiful and they know what he can bring to the table, and he'd be welcomed with open arms. But nothing has manifested itself yet. He's still out there lingering around. I still think back in New England is ultimately where he will end up, but he hasn't signed yet. This reminds me a lot of KJ Wright last year. Remember KJ Wright, longtime Seattle Seahawk, was out there floating around. Some teams, felt like they needed to upgrade the linebacker position. He ends up in Vegas with the Raiders right before the start of the season. I think they signed him like literally a day or two before the regular season kicked off. So I could see Dante Hightower being in a situation like that where, he ends up signing with the Patriots or with the Vegas Raiders. Again, two organizations with a ton of Patriots staff members that know his game and know what he's capable of. We'll see what happens. Here's a name that I really am intrigued by. And I'm actually floored that he doesn't have a job. And that's Will Fuller the fifth. Look, I get it. Between suspensions and injuries, this guy has been someone you cannot rely on. Okay. He has not been an accountable football player. Totally get it. But if you're a team like, I say, the Chicago Bears, that has absolutely nothing at receiver outside of Darnell Mooney, why wouldn't you just kick the tires on Will Fuller the fifth just because? If it doesn't work, you get rid of him. But I've looked at the Bears roster, and it's a bunch of dudes that are second chance guys that are cast-offs from other teams. Why not give Will Fuller the fifth a chance? He's way more talented than any of those other guys you have on your roster. He'd be the perfect complement to Darnell Mooney. If he's healthy and, able to stay clean, we know what Will Fuller the fifth brings. He's one of the most dynamic deep threats in the league. So to me, I'm actually shocked that someone didn't just reach out to this kid. And I don't know, maybe people did reach out to his agent and he wasn't interested. Who knows? But Will Fuller is really intriguing to me because at a bare minimum, a team like Chicago could easily use a guy like Will Fuller the fifth, and he's still sitting out there. It was a terrible year for him last year. And when you couple how his career ended in Houston with the suspension and then that bleeding over into the next season, and then him breaking his hand and missing pretty much the entire year with the Dolphins last year, you could argue he hasn't played football in a year and a half. You haven't seen him. He hasn't been productive. We know this is a guy with a ton of soft tissue injuries. So at some point, he's going to probably pull a hamstring or have a calf strain or something like that, turn an ankle. And so I get it, but I don't get it if you're the Bears. Everybody else around the league, fine, I get it. If you're the Bears, if you're the Falcons, these types of teams, I don't understand that, where you could use more talent at the receiver position. Why not kick the tires on Will Fuller the fifth? He's still out there. And I don't know if he'll get work, to be honest with you. Kevin King, cornerback, formerly of the Green Bay Packers. This guy is still young. He's only 27 years old. He's 6'3", long, athletic. The problem with Kevin King is he's just so up and down. 1 minute he's breaking up a pass or picking the pass off. The next minute he's getting burnt to a crisp. And I don't really know what's surrounding him, what's out there in league circles, because generally guys with his measurables and his age at that position particularly don't just hang around without a job. Someone's going to give you a call. Someone's going to kick the tires. Someone's going to give you a cup of tea and just to see what you're up to. Someone's going to check the temperature. Nobody's checking for Kevin King. I was never a Kevin King fan coming out of UW, but he had some solid seasons back in, I think, 2019. He was really good for the Green Bay Packers, but he wasn't good. We all remember him getting torched in that playoff game against the Buccaneers in 2020 in the NFC Championship game, and he wasn't good last year either. So between injuries and just inconsistent play, that's probably part of the reason why he's not on an NFL roster right now. But again, 6'3", long, athletic corner, rangy, 27 years old. It's hard for me to fathom no one is interested in Kevin King. But clearly, right now, no one is interested in Kevin King. Maybe that will change before the start of the season. Here's a name that he's a hired gun, and we've talked about him being a hired gun probably for the last 4 years of his career, and that's Ndamukong Suh. He's been in Tampa. Trying to think if he was in Miami before that. He's a hired gun at this point of his career. You need an interior defensive lineman that's still got something left in the tank that can get after the quarterback just a tad bit, not as much as he once could, but also can be a menace in the run game. Look no further than Ndamukong Suh. Probably going to cost you somewhere in that $10 million range, which is why I think he's not working right now. I'm pretty sure there have been teams interested, like Minnesota, maybe even the Vegas Raiders, that would be very intrigued by having Ndamukong Suh being added to their interior defensive line, but the price tag might have scared them off. And Suh's one of those dudes, he's not working for less than what he thinks he's worth. He's done a really good job of maximizing his earning potential while in the league, I don't see him, saying, all right, I'll play for $7.5 million. He's like, no. I need a dime. Okay. If you want me to come out there, I need a dime, or else I'll be done. I'm good. So Suh is out there. I think someone's going to sign him ultimately. We'll see what happens with Ndamukong Suh. And then finally, Landon Collins. I'm actually surprised no one has given him a call. And I really believe that he has created this situation for himself. If he were to just acknowledge that he is a hybrid safety / linebacker, I think he'd be working right now. But the fact that he really has been resistant to being called anything but a safety, he still thinks he's a top-notch safety, which is beyond me because he's far from a top-notch safety, but he's a very dynamic defender down around the line of scrimmage. I think that's the reason why people are hesitant to give him a call. He was so adamant that he wasn't a linebacker last year. I think that might have scared some people off, truly, especially his former team. Now, they were interested in retaining his services. Remember, they asked him to take a pay cut. He agreed. And then the Carson Wentz trade happened, and they went back to him again as if they were really trying to run him out of town because they asked him to take another pay cut. He was like, no, come on, man. Now y'all tripping. As a matter of fact, just let me go. I'll hit the streets. I'll get my money elsewhere. Well, are you going to get your money elsewhere? I don't know. His phone hasn't rang yet, and I'm shocked to see Landon Collins still available in free agency. So those are some of the free agents that still remain, and there are others out there that are notables, but those are the ones that I felt like were the best of the best, the creme de la creme that's out there. And we'll see if any of these guys get a call. Obviously, Eric Fisher, to me, is the one that sticks out like a sore thumb with the news of Tyron Smith in Dallas. It just seems like they're going to have to do something. It may not be Eric Fisher. It could be trading with New England for Wynn at the tackle position. They're going to have to do something. Like their in-house options, we'll talk about that. I don't love them, but we'll see. In case you missed it, Lamar Jackson reportedly, and this is according to Jay Glazer, was offered more money than Kyler Murray, and he turned it down. Why? Remember, Kyler Murray just signed for, I think it was $230.5, but it was like 160 of it was fully guaranteed, right? Was the guarantees of that deal. So Lamar was offered more than he and Deshaun Watson. The difference is Deshaun Watson. I said this in the moment. Remember, I said when Deshaun Watson got that deal, and there were executives around the league that were pissed at the Cleveland Browns for constructing a deal that essentially guaranteed Deshaun Watson his entire contract because that set precedents. We've seen Kirk Cousins get to the bag and get a fully guaranteed, but that wasn't a 5-year, $230 million deal, essentially. That wasn't that. And so a lot of executives around the league are like, you're setting a bad precedence here because now other players are going to look at that and feel like if he can get that, I'm better than him. I should be getting that. And owners have been running away from fully guaranteed contracts because of the volatility in the sheer nature of the sport that is football. It's hard to fully guarantee these contracts because guys can get injured. And that's why guys want the security of a long-term deal because it's here today, gone tomorrow. And it's such a physically demanding sport. So Lamar wants a fully guaranteed deal. And the Ravens are like, come again? You want what? With the style of play that you have, you want a fully guaranteed deal? Oy vey. So I don't know. I've said this for a while now. This is one of the most intriguing contract situations that we've ever seen because, one, he doesn't have an agent. He and his mom are essentially handling the negotiations themselves. The Ravens are in a unique situation because they've essentially built their entire roster around Lamar Jackson's strengths. And so they've constructed a game plan and a roster that insulates Lamar Jackson and allows him to be the best version of himself. However, so that means you can't just turn and pivot. And you've got people out there saying, well, you could just start, their backup quarterback and you'd be fine. No, he's okay. He's not Lamar Jackson, okay? Tyler Huntley is okay. He's not Lamar Jackson, though. So it's hard for them to just say, you know what, Lamar, take it or leave it, because of what they've already put out there. They're in a tough spot. They want to get this done, but Lamar's not making it easy on them. I'm anxious to see how that situation goes, because clearly the Ravens are in control here. The contract runs out at the end of the season. They're going to slap the franchise tag on him. They don't want to lose him. And if Lamar balls out, let's say he goes to the Super Bowl, then he can command a fully guaranteed deal. Then he can Joe Flacco them, tie their hands behind their back, tie their feet to the bottom of the post and really get after him, right? But if he doesn't, let's say he's dynamic in the regular season again, but they get bounced in the first round of playoffs like they usually do with Lamar Jackson under center. They're going to say, dude, you've got one playoff victory to your name. You've been excellent in the regular season, and that's why we're paying you or offering you this contract, but we can't fully guarantee you this contract. He's not trying to hear that. No matter what happens, Lamar wants his bread, and that I think we're looking at a game of chicken. Ravens aren't going to blink because they don't have to yet. They can slap the franchise tag on him twice. Okay, it's going to get pretty pricey, here shortly, because these quarterback dollars keep going up and up and up. But they can do it twice. That third time is where you got to draw the line. Then it's ridiculous. So, essentially, if they don't think they can get a deal done with Lamar, you've got 2 years to find a replacement or else. Tyler Huntley is there, but you're not winning a Super Bowl with Tyler Huntley. Sorry, not sorry. They know that as well. Perfect backup in the offense that they've constructed and for Lamar Jackson, but they'd have to find another Lamar Jackson type to run that offense if they were going to move on from Lamar. And they don't have that guy. And they don't grow on trees either. So that's an interesting situation, that he was offered more money than Kyler Murray. So more than the $230 million, $230 and a half, I believe it was, and the $160 whatever million guaranteed. Let's say that the number, we're going to just make up a fictitious number. Say the number was 240 and the guarantees were 180 on that, and he turned that down. That's tough if you're the Ravens. I don't know what else to do. If you offered him that contract and he said no, we don't know the particulars. It could have been 231, which is slightly above Kyler. They didn't say how much more. Could have been 100,000 more. It could have been, instead of the 230.5, it was 230.6. We don't know what the actual dollars were, but let's just say it was 240. It could have been 231. And instead of 167, I think Kyler got, or something along those lines, it was 170 guaranteed. Like, Lamar's probably scoffing at that. I'm way better than Kyler Murray. Are you kidding me? That guy's not even close to being on my level. Anyway, we'll see what that situation holds for the future. It's a game of chicken. The Ravens are in a position where they don't have to blink. They don't have to swerve right now, but if Lamar stays healthy and continues to play well, the price only goes up. In case you missed it, this happened a little while ago, but I failed to mention it. Derwin James signs a 4-year, $76 million extension with $42 million of it guaranteed to make him the highest paid safety in the NFL. His AAV is 19.1, leapfrogging Minkah Fitzpatrick, who I believe was in that $18.5 million range with his deal that he signed with the Steelers this past offseason. So Derwin James, now the leader in the clubhouse. That's not a surprise. The next guy is the best guy in terms of pay generally in this league and at the way that it's moving. But Derwin James is one of the best and premier safeties in the league. He can do just about everything. And when he's healthy, he's a problem. He was healthy last year, and it made the Chargers that much better defensively. So that's a big deal. Derwin James getting the $76 million deal with 42 of it guaranteed. I'm always a little bit sour when I see Derwin James doing something, because I wasn't the biggest Derwin James to Washington fan, but he was my fallback plan back in 2018 when the team selected Daron Payne. I wanted them to select Tremaine Edmonds, and if they didn't get Edmonds, I wanted Derwin James. And every time I see Derwin James balling out and I look at Washington's safety position, I just think about the opportunity that was laid in front of them, and they decided to take a defensive tackle instead. And you know what? Daron Payne's been a really solid football player, and I like what he's been for Washington, but he's not Derwin James. Let's just call a spade a spade. Sticking with the Chargers, though, in other Chargers news, in case you missed it, their star corner that they signed in free agency, J.C. Jackson, that was supposed to come in, bolster that secondary, and really give them a formidable tandem between he and their second-year corner, Asante Samuel Jr., he's now had ankle surgery. He just as early, I want to say, as late as maybe 2 days ago, yesterday, ankle surgery, and he's out 2 to 4 weeks. And, you know, I love it when someone says it's a pretty minor procedure to clean stuff up. No surgery is minor, okay? Says the person that isn't the one having their body cut open. Oh, yeah, it's a minor procedure. Yeah, it's minor because they're not cutting you open. No surgery is minor as far as I'm concerned. So 2 to 4 weeks puts him in a position where he could still be ready for the start of the season, or he could miss the first game or two. It's a really interesting time to have this done, because generally, if you're having a procedure to clean stuff up, that's some shit you do either after the season, or it's to relieve pain that you've been feeling that has been lingering for a while. If this is something he's been dealing with throughout camp, why not just get it done 2 weeks ago, a month ago? I don't know the full story. I don't know exactly why he waited until now. Maybe this was a situation he was trying to stave off, and it just got to a point where he's like, if I can just have this done now, I'm just going to knock it out, you know? And there's still time. Again, you're still 3 weeks out from the start of the regular season. So there's no guarantee that he's going to miss. If this 2 to 4 week timeline is accurate, there's no guarantee that he's going to miss any time. But the likelihood is he's probably going to miss a week or two of the regular season with this injury. Because anytime you get cut open, you just want to make sure it fully heals. So that's a big blow. And I think the Chargers start with a couple of AFC West opponents. If I'm not mistaken, week 1, it's the Vegas Raiders. Week 2, remember, they told us this during the draft, that's going to be the first Thursday night Amazon Prime game against the Chiefs. If he's out for those first 2 games, that could be the difference between the Chargers winning the division or missing the playoffs altogether. I mean, it's a pretty big effing deal. So something to keep in mind there. In case you missed it, Brady and the healthy Bucs starters to play in the final preseason games. This is according to Bucs head coach Todd Bowles, who said, and you know what? This is all Tom Brady. And this is why I love Tom Brady. This is why I advocate for playing in the preseason, getting your guys prepared. If Brady said, nah, I'm good, I don't want to play in the preseason, do you think that Todd Bowles would be making him do this? Even if Bowles thought this was the right thing to do, if Brady said, nah, I'm good, they wouldn't be playing him in this final preseason game. But you know what Brady said? Nah, I need to work. I've been away from the team for 2 weeks. I haven't been playing in the preseason. And he usually plays in the preseason to get himself ready for the regular season. He hasn't been playing, and he wants to go out there and probably toss it around, 5 to 10 to maybe 12 times just to get into a little bit of a rhythm in a game-like situation, and then he'll get out of there. But this is all Brady. Trust me when I tell you this. And then now that you've got all these moving parts up front with all these injuries to the Bucs interior offensive line, I think Brady wants to get out there, get these guys some game reps, get everybody comfortable, get himself acclimated to, the game situation. and get out there and sling it around a bit. So that's interesting. Meaningless third preseason game. Bucks haven't shown anything the first 2 preseason games, and now Brady's like, yo, I need this work. So I love Brady because Brady's always been a preseason dude, always been one that has been a stickler for, let me get some throws up, let me get some throws up and understand that I need to get into game-like situations. Can't replicate that in practice. And then finally, in case you missed it, Tyron Smith suffers a avulsion fracture of his knee. So first they were worried that it was a hamstring. Then they realized that there was something behind the knee. Turns out to be a fracture of the avulsion. And they're still holding out hope that he can be back this season. They said if he is, it's going to be back into the season like December. But the likelihood is he's going to miss the entire year, more likely than not. It's not the exact same injury that Mekhi Becton sustained in New York with the Jets, but it's like a cousin to that injury, and he's done for the year. So the likelihood is Tyron Smith is probably going to be out for the entire year. And this has always been my problem with Tyron Smith. Someone asked me, was he a Hall of Fame player? My answer is no. Now, he may still ultimately get in. Shit, if Tony Baselli can get into the Hall of Fame, then Tyron Smith can probably get in. But he's never healthy. The guy hasn't played a full season since like 2016. He always misses at bare minimum like 3 or 4 games. So that's my problem with Tyron Smith is he never is fully healthy. There's always something wrong with him. Obviously, he couldn't help this. This wasn't like the back that he's been dealing with for much of his career. This is something totally different. This is a freak accident, but it sucks. That's a big part of the Cowboys offense. Remember, this is an offensive line that is already in flux. They moved Lyle Collins. They moved on from Connor Williams. He sucked anyway. And so they were already in sort of a scramble mode to, repair what was a broken offensive line. And now the guy that was the anchor of that line, essentially, along with Zach Martin, is now out again. And so, yeah, that pick of Trey Smith in the first round, the tackle out of Tulsa, who they were going to play at guard, that all of a sudden looks like a great pick. But I told you, Trey Smith stinks at tackle to me, which is why I think the Cowboys were cool with putting him at guard, sort of like in that whole Laramie Tunzel role. Remember, Laramie Tunzel came in initially, first season, played guard, kicked out to right tackle, then eventually moved to left tackle. They were hoping to kind of finesse their way into Trey Smith getting better, using his hands, better footwork, because he's still a little bit raw. But if you put him at tackle, he's going to lead the league in holding penalties. Okay. The Cowboys are already one of the most penalized teams in the league every year. And they led the league in penalties last year. They had a preseason game this year against Denver in the first one where they had 17 penalties. You put Trey Smith out at left tackle, he is going to struggle, and he's going to have 12 holding penalties by himself this season. Bare minimum. And I think they are aware of this. And so they've got options. I don't think they love any of the in-house options. They drafted a kid last year in the 4th or 5th round. They don't want to do that. They'll do it if they have to, but it's a tough spot to be in, which is why I think they're going to have to go outside of their roster to solve this problem. If they do it in-house, it could end up being a major issue for them. I don't know if they have the pieces in-house to handle this or not. We'll see. Tough spot to be in this close to the season, though. That sucks if you are the Dallas Cowboys. So that's going to do it for the Gem Droppin Session. We are now going to transition to one of my favorite segments to do as we enter in the Throwback Thursday realm. So now I got to change my voice into the smooth jazz 105.3 voice as we head back into the time machine and take a trip. And I ask the question, y'all remember when? Yeah. This feels nice. Let's get to remember when. Y'all remember when America Online was the only way online? You remember that? Again, a lot of times when I do these remember wins, if you're not of a certain age group, you have no idea, and you will never have any idea. And you know what? You don't want to have any idea of some of these things that I'm referring to because it's the worst. You guys are spoiled, I will tell you that. But there was a time where you got on America Online. So first of all, they used to send you a disc, and I'm going to talk about this in a second, but they used to send you the disc, and it was like a free trial of America Online. No one was trying to pay for this shit back in the day. So you'd put that in, you get the little free trial, and in order to get online, you'd have to connect via America Online. And in order to do that, it was like dial-up modem, right? So you'd hear these crazy, annoying sounds before you connected to the internet. So it'd be like, it sounded like an alarm going off just so you could connect to the internet, okay? I mean, that dial-up was so bad, right? And you had to have, like, it would tie up your phone lines. Getting on the internet was a chore back in the day. Like, people couldn't call your house while you were connected to the internet because it was using your phone line it was using dial-up connection. And so it was the slowest, it was the worst, but it was also the best because if you could get online, there was countless possibilities out there for you online. But it was getting online was the hardest part. America Online, man. Oh man, takes me back. Remember when the Buffalo Bills went to 4 straight Super Bowls? You know, it's crazy because we just talk about that now like it's nothing. Think about that. Think about the context of what they did. Now, they did it at a time when it was much easier to do that because there was no free agency. So it was a lot easier for them to do what they did in 1990, 91, 92, and 93. Now, the back end of that started the free agency period, but they were able to keep the core group of their team together. You know, Talley and Cornelius Bennett and Bruce Smith and Andre Reed and Thurman Thomas and Jim Kelly and Steve Tasker and all of those guys that were on those teams that were really the core of what they were doing. They were able to keep those guys together without the fear of losing them. Think about how we view the Super Bowl and what we view as a successful run. You know, you make the Super Bowl twice in a 6-year span, you're killing the game, you know? 4 years in a row? Are you kidding me? I ask you this. Will a team in NFL history ever do that again? The closest we've ever come was the Patriots. They went 3 out of 4 years. And I want to say it was 2001, 2002, and 2004. I think that those were the 4 years that they went. Will we ever see anything like the Buffalo Bills of the early 90s again? I think the answer is a resounding no. And they don't get enough credit because they didn't win a Super Bowl. It's one of the biggest, I think, shames of when you go through the pantheon of NFL history. They should rank a lot higher for what they were able to do. Do you know how hard it is to get to a Super Bowl? And they did it 4 times in a row. They had nothing to show for it, and that's the sad part about this. But wow, 4 times in a row to the Super Bowl. I don't think it'll ever be done again. Got to give those Bills teams their flowers while they can still smell them. Remember when Microsoft Encarta was your best tool for your school report? And this takes me to another thing. Remember when CD-ROMs were a must, or those flash drives that you had to use back in the day, those floppy disks? Remember that? Like, going to put this all under one umbrella, right? So again, something that kids will never know anything about. You can Google anything you need and get all the answers you need to your book report or a report that you're doing, a research paper that you're doing. You can just type it in and countless amounts of information will pop up right at your fingertips. That wasn't the case when we were growing up. We literally had to go and find it either in a book, an encyclopedia, all right? Or if you were lucky enough, if you had a computer and you had a CD-ROM, you could use Microsoft Encarta, which was a disk, and it was like an encyclopedia in disk form, essentially. And you would get everything you needed off of that. And that would help you with your book report, or that would help you with your research paper. And you would save all of this when you were done on a floppy disk. A floppy disk. And, you know, the stupidest thing about a floppy disk is how easy it was for you to lose all of your work. You could spend 18 straight hours working on a research paper. And if you formatted that disk, it would erase everything. If you bent that floppy disk, it would break everything and you would lose everything. If anything happened to that floppy disk, it was over. Boy, what a time it was to be alive in those days. Man. Remember when Albert Haynesworth stepped on Andre Garrod's forehead? That should have been a red flag to anyone that wanted to sign this clown, that he wasn't a guy that you needed to have on your football team, that he was a loose cannon. He was missing a few screws. That wasn't the first time he had gotten in a fight with someone. He had gotten into a fight with his teammate. You know, I think it was his rookie season. And he was already a dirty player. People already knew about his background. But that I remember that Andre Garrod situation and just how dangerous that was, because there was never any real proof that he took his lid off. He took Andre Garrod's lid off, but he took his helmet off. Albert Haynesworth took his helmet off and then proceeded to try and step on his head. He missed him the first time. And then he stepped on him the second time, split his head open, and barely missed his eye by a few inches. Are you kidding me? What kind of a psychopath does that? Albert Haynesworth. And then Washington still had the nerve to pay this guy $100 million over a 7-year contract. What a lazy waste of talent he was. And I just remember him stepping on Andre Garrod's head, and I'm thinking, first of all, how did that not turn into a full-out brawl? That would never fly in today's football. You know, you're getting your ass beat, you do something like that to one of my teammates. 2, he wasn't even ejected after he stepped on the guy's face. It was only a 15-yard penalty. He didn't get ejected until he lost his shit after finding out he was getting a 15-yard penalty. Then he took his helmet off and slammed it against the turf, and that's when he got tossed. What? Guys are being ejected for games for leading with their helmet. He stepped on somebody's face and didn't even get ejected initially. Anyway, I digress. Remember when kids used to drink chocolate milk just because? Like, I laughed like 6 months ago. I was watching an NBA game and they cut to a commercial, and it was a commercial of Klay Thompson promoting chocolate milk. And I thought to myself, who in the hell drinks chocolate milk anymore? Remember when we were growing up, like Yoo-hoo was a thing. Like you would go to 7-Eleven, you would go to a convenience store and buy a Yoo-hoo. Now that wasn't me, but I know people that would do that. That would go to a convenience store to buy chocolate milk. People would actually drink Yoo-hoo. You also had Nestle. Good point, John Craig. You also had Nestle. You could also drink that. And now I was a Nestle Quick guy at the house. You buy a thing of milk, you pour in a couple scoops of Nestle Quick, and you could make it as chocolatey as you wanted. I was one of those kids. I was a strawberry guy personally. So I would take the strawberry Nestle Quick and just shovel spoonfuls of that stuff into my cup and stir it up. And then even with all of that stirring, there was a concentration about this thick at the bottom of the cup of powder that didn't dissolve because it had already dissolved as much as it could. Those were the days. But does anybody drink Yoo-Hoo or Nestle Quick anymore? Like, I'll give you another one. So when I was in elementary school, they had these things called Taz shakes, right? These things were like crack. I don't know what they put in them, but they were like frozen chocolate milk drinks that they would only give to us once every month on a Tuesday, okay? And they were crazy. We would go nuts over these things. And all it was like frozen chocolate milk, but it wasn't like completely frozen. And it tasted like concentrated. You know how if something freezes and you suck all the sugar out of it, that's what Taz shakes tasted like, which is probably why they only gave it to us once a month, because we would be bouncing off the walls. And I would do everything in my power to try to get a second Taz shake, and they would never give me one. So then I would start to try to go to other people. Hey, do you want your Taz shake? Hey, do you want your Taz shake? At that moment, chocolate milk was at an all-time high. I think the stock is as low as I've ever seen for chocolate milk. When Klay Thompson is doing a sad commercial, and it wasn't for any brand of chocolate milk, it was just like, hey, drink chocolate milk. Klay Thompson does. And it's like a generic label with him taking a sip of chocolate milk. It was the worst commercial I'd ever seen in my life. Chocolate milk stock is at an all-time low. And I don't see any resurrection. I don't see how anybody can come in and change the game. Kids aren't drinking chocolate milk. They're drinking energy drinks now. Nobody's drinking chocolate milk. Remember when the Atlanta Falcons had dope uniforms? What the hell did they do to those uniforms? I was watching the preseason game the other day against the Jets, the one that was on Monday night, and I was just thinking to myself, how hideous those Falcons uniforms are. They are the worst in the league. It's not even close. They're terrible. I remember when they first debuted those things, and we laughed and we joked, and people compared it to the longest yard and all this, that, and the third. And they looked like, UFL uniforms and or AFL uniforms and all kinds of nonsense. And I just remember saying, they might grow on me. I don't like them right now, but maybe they'll grow on me. No, they haven't. They've aged like an old fruit, like it's rotten. It stinks. And I can't wait until they realize that this wasn't a good idea. They had a great uniform with 97 different combinations. And then the uniforms before that, the tail end of the All Blacks with Vic when he was a rookie, those were dope uniforms. The Chris Chandler Dirty Bird uniforms, those were absolutely fantastic. Then Vic gets here and they switched it over. When you got the Vic experience, they switched to those ones that they had previous to the ones they have now with the 27 different combinations, the red tops, white bottoms with the black helmet. Those were dope. And you're like, damn, and they can wear it all white, white with red, white with black, all black, black with red, black with white, all, red, red with black, red with white. They could do so many different things. And then they brought out these pieces of trash. If you think about the lineage of Falcon uniforms, they've been dope every step of the way. Going all the way back to the inaugural Atlanta Falcons uniforms, the all whites with the all red helmets with the black stripe in the Falcon. Oh my God, they may be the best throwback helmets of all time. And now you've gotten to this point where this is the helmet, this is the uniform. Yikes. Give me a break. Remember when This only pertains to bus riders. If you didn't ride the bus to school, this ain't going to hit home for you. This isn't going to resonate. Remember when you would catch the bus to school, the bus would show up late, and then it would show up cold. It would be the coldest day of winter. It'd show up late. So you stood at the bus stop an additional 35 minutes, freezing your ass off, only for the bus to show up with no heat. You were essentially sitting in the frozen tundra. The seats were absolutely frozen solid. It was like going down a slide, okay? When you would get on that bus, the windows would have frost on them, and you would ride to school literally like you're living in Alaska. For the next 15 minutes, your ride to school, you're bundled up as tight as you can, and you're blowing in your hands and you're blowing inside your coat trying to stay warm. Those were the absolute worst days to ride the bus. And it was always the case at my school with my particular bus. We had the raggediest bus, it seemed like. All right. You knew the shit was going to break down at least 7 times during the school year. And you were just hoping, can I get 3 of them in the fall when school first starts, when it's still kind of cool outside? And can I get the other 4 at the end of the school year when it's springtime and it's starting to turn to summer and it's warm out and we really don't mind sitting at the bus stop for an extra 25, 30 minutes? No, all them shits would be concentrated in months December through February. Cold as shit. You're standing outside. You already don't want to stand outside as it is. It's already cold as hell. Now the wind's blowing, cutting through your shit, okay? God forbid you thought you was cool and you just had a windbreaker on. Now your ass is getting lit up. Now the bus isn't here. And, you know, it's different now. They send you a nice little neat text message to your phone telling you your bus is late. So if you want to take your ass back in the house and wait, you can, okay? They give you little updates telling you when the bus is on the way. And we didn't have that shit. Your dumb ass would be at the bus stop, waiting outside, thinking, hey, the bus is coming any minute now. The bus is coming any minute now. 10 minutes later, the bus has got to be coming soon. 15 minutes later, damn, the bus might not come today. And then finally, the bus comes, and you're like, you know your bus number, right? You look, that's not 265. What the hell is that shit? And you see it a mile away, you're like, oh, hell. I bet you the damn heat isn't on that shit. Because when the bus breaks down, and they got to go back to the yard to get a new bus, that shit hasn't been warmed up. That bus wasn't supposed to be getting work today. So they're going to jump right in that thing, and they're going to pick your ass up in a bus that isn't heated, and you got to take the L. Man, I tell you what, I think the coldest I've ever been in my life was in one of these situations, waiting for the bus. You get on the bus and the shit is frozen solid. It was like somebody came in and poured water all inside the bus, knowing that it was going to freeze, and just left the bus there. You couldn't see out the windows. The seats literally had frost on them. If you wanted to pull the window down, you couldn't. They were frozen shut. And here we are going to school. If it was 10 degrees outside, and it wasn't that cold, it was probably like 23 degrees or so outside that day. If it was 23 degrees outside, it was probably 12 or 10 degrees on the damn bus. You know it's a shame when you lose 10 to 12 degrees getting on the bus instead of gaining 30 degrees by having the heat warm shit up, and you get up there, you're like, I can remember some of the best times being able to get on the bus and the heat be on. You be like, yo, Miss Anderson, turn that heat up. Turn that shit to hell. Anyway, I digress. That was definitely some trying times. If you rode the bus, you can relate, especially from the 757. I remember when. Do you? And so that takes me to my final segment of the show. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, gather around. It's story time with your man, Louie Tee. So, one of my superpowers, I've been told by others, is my ability to tell stories. I love telling stories. It's my favorite thing to do. And I'm very animated when I tell stories. And so, that's just one of the gifts that I've been blessed with. Don't have many, but that's one of the ones that I do have. And so, I'm going to tell you the time that I almost got in a fight after a baseball game. So, for those of you who aren't aware, football wasn't my thing growing up. My mom didn't want me playing football. She thought it was a dangerous sport. She actually turned out to be right. I was a basketball and baseball guy growing up, and I enjoyed playing basketball more, but I was better at baseball. Baseball came natural to me. I played T-ball. I was the best at just about every level that I played. And then I ended up being the team captain on my high school baseball team. And it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed playing baseball, but I honestly feel like had baseball been the way, if baseball would have been how it is now back then, I might have tried to play professionally because I would have enjoyed it more. Like the young boys are having fun out there. They're bat flipping. They're doing whatever the hell. I mean, you see Ronald Acuna run the bases. He's dancing damn near when he gets to third base. He's doing all kinds of shit. They're doing all kinds of stuff at home plate. They're having fun in the dugout. Like, it's a different game now. If you looked at a dude wrong, you were getting hit. There were so many unwritten rules back in the day. Guys were such sticklers for upholding the tradition of baseball. It felt racist. It felt like I didn't belong, and I didn't enjoy it a lot of times. And this shit it permeated in high school. Like, you have to do it the right way. Like, get out of my face. I want to have fun. And that shit just wasn't allowed when I was growing up. So it turned me off on baseball. But had I been allowed to do the things that these young boys are doing, I would probably stuck with baseball because I wasn't a 5-tool baseball player, but I was a 4-tooler. And so for those of you not familiar, 5 tools of baseball are hit for average, hit for power, defensive, ability, meaning your glove, whether you're an outfielder or you're an infielder, your ability to run, and then what am I forgetting? Hit for power, hit for average, and then your arm, your ability to throw the baseball. That's the one I didn't have. My arm was not good. Okay. It wasn't the worst, but it was not good. Okay. So you would have either hit me in left field or you would have DH'd me. But I could run and I could hit. And I hadn't even tapped into my power yet. I just started hitting home runs my last year of high school. I just figured out, a lot of the things that my coaches were telling me. And I just figured out, and I was just starting to really lift weights. I was getting serious about football. And so I was starting to get bigger and stronger. And the light bulb was coming on. But forget about all of that. I wasn't the same dude then than I am now, clearly. We grow up, we evolve, we mature. I was somewhat of a head case as a kid because I always felt like I had to prove myself. I was constantly trying to prove myself. So when you're always feeling like you've got a chip on your shoulder and that someone doesn't think you're this or you're that, you've always got that, you've always got that, not chip. You always got that mean mug going. I always was mean mugging, and mean mugging was the thing you did back in the day. That was the cool thing to do. You'd take a picture. I wish you could see my baseball picture from that year. I thought I was so cool. I had the gold chain. I had the eye black on. I had Jordan wristbands. I had some Jordan 12 cleats. Like, I had different cleats for we had 3 different uniforms: white, red, black. And so my black ones, I wear my Jordan 12s. I had some customs for my red uniform. And so you couldn't tell me nothing. I had everything. I had all the gadgets. And, I'm like this in my baseball picture, right? Mean mugging for no reason, right? So we're playing against one of our rivals in every sport except baseball. They sucked. Booker T. Washington. Let's call him Booker T. They were terrible in baseball. One of the worst schools in baseball. They were terrible. And so we would dig in their ass. I don't think I ever lost to them my entire career playing baseball. And you shouldn't. They were terrible. So we were in the midst of kicking their ass. Like one of these games, we're killing them. You know, in baseball, in high school, you get up 10 runs after the sixth inning, they call the game because, you know, it's over. You're not coming back. So I think it might have been the fifth inning. If you're up 10, they stop it because baseball games in high school, I think there's 7 innings, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, we're kicking their ass. I'll go 3 for 4 in the game. 2 doubles and a triple. All right. 3 for 4, 2 doubles, a triple, 3 RBIs. That's another day at the office against them. They're terrible. Everybody was looking to get their stats up against them. They were that type of team. So anyway, I hit the triple. It's my last at bat. We're kicking their ass. And I was a no mercy dude. You know, if it was Cobra Kai, I'm Cobra Kai. You know, I'm showing no mercy. And so we hit a shallow pop fly into left field. And honestly, I don't need to tag up, but I do it anyway. I'm fast enough. I know I can score. And the dude in left field is trash. The rest, just like the rest of the team, they're ass. He's not going to throw me out at the plate. If we were playing against a better team, I don't even think about running because it wasn't hit that deep. Anyway, tag up on his ass and I score. Apparently, he got pissed off about that. So we get to the end of the game. And if you play any kind of high school sports, recreational sports, they always want you to exhibit good sportsmanship. So you have to shake hands with your opponent after the game. So the tradition in baseball was, you know, each team would line up adjacent to second base and on opposite sides of second base, and you would walk by and you would slap hands and say good game. So we get into the, you know, that that line, you know, the good game line. That's what it was called, the good game line. And this guy, the guy that I tagged up on, apparently was salty about me tagging up on him. And in those days, I was a loose cannon. Like, I wasn't looking to fight. I really didn't want to fight. But because of my background, because of, you know, always having to prove myself, I was always ready. I didn't want to fight, right? I wasn't looking to pick a fight. I wasn't looking to do, but I was always ready. You say go, and I'm like, let's do it. You know what I'm saying? So I get to the dude that I tagged up on, and he puts his hand down. He's hit everybody's hand before mine. He puts his hand down and he says, bitch. I said, no, this mother did not just call me a bitch. And he didn't hit my hand, right? I said, what the did you just say? He turns around, and so back in the day, it was funny, me and my homeboy, he was on the team with me. We always laugh about it now. Back in the day, if you were going to fight somebody and you were going to beat them up, you would say, like, man, it could be in Madden, it could be playing, you know, outside one-on-one basketball, anything. You would say, I'm about to give you the business. That was one of the little phrases that we said. So the dude turns when I said, what the fuck did you just say? I said, man, I'll bust your ass. And he turns around and he says, man, I will give you the business. And so I'm all the way at the end of the line. He's all the way towards the front of the line. As he says that, I start charging towards him, and his teammates get in between him. My teammates get in between me. And, you know, I'm trying to get to this dude. And I mean, I'm trying to get to him bad. Hey, trying to get my jersey off because they holding me by my jersey, and I'm trying my hardest to get to this dude. It wasn't gonna happen. There are like 20 guys in between us. My coach comes and he yanks me up, and we talking shit all the way as they're separating us, and we were at our home field, right? So they're pulling him, trying to get him on the bus. I'm screaming at him, I'm like, nah, coach, fuck that shit, coach. Fuck that shit, coach. He ain't gonna be talking to me like I'm a little bitch, coach. Fuck that shit, coach. And coach is like, bro, calm down. And I had a older white coach, so he could never understand that this is a big deal. Like, I ain't no bitch, right? Or as a wise man once told me, bitch, my mama ain't no hoe, bitch, my daddy ain't no hoe, bitch, my sister ain't no hoe. Why you trying to play me like a hoe? So, as they get on the bus, I'm like, coach, I'm cool. I'm good, coach. I'm good. I'm cool. No, I'm not. I'm cool, coach. I'm good, man. Man, coach, I ain't even thinking about him no more, coach. That's a lie. Okay. So coach is like, all right, we're going to have practice tomorrow. He does his little thing. They bus still ain't take off yet. My dude, so I'm riding with my homeboy because he was the one of us that got our car first. So his car is parked on the side of the road by the baseball field, and the bus was parked maybe 3 car lengths away. So, my coach is watching me, but he's not like thinking, because I told him, I'm good, coach. I'm good. I ain't even thinking about him no more, man. It's over. He gone. He on the bus. So I give everybody the okie doke. I got my bag with all my stuff in it, glove, bat, all that stuff. And I drop it by my homeboy's car. And then I take off for the bus. I take off and go over to the bus. And I'm like, hey, where he at? Where he at? Let his ass off the bus. Let his bitch ass off the bus. And I'm banging on the bus. Let his bitch ass off the bus. What? No. And then he come to the window and he yelling. And I'm like, get off the goddamn bus then. If you about it, come on in. Of course, the bus takes off. That was the last time we played them that year. And that was my senior year. So I didn't see them again. They were terrible. So we didn't see them in the playoffs or anything like that. Never seen the guy again. But it was crazy because like that's not even, if anybody that knows me, that's not even really my character. I'm not even, like I said, I'm not a fighter. But again, I was always ready. You know what I'm saying? You never had to question, was Lou going to follow up? Was he going to be there? I was always ready. But that one triggered me. You know what I'm saying? Because like, I didn't even do nothing to you. And you want to call me names and you just mad because we kicked your ass and I put a little cherry on top and now you salty. So my friend never lets me forget that one. He always says, I will give you the business. And I was like, I wish he would have. I would have mopped him. He was a big dude, though. I ain't gonna lie. Like, he wasn't like a little skinny chump that I was just gonna run over and mop. But I was gonna mop him regardless. Like, he was gonna get some work. But I guess we'll never know. Right? Anyway. Somebody said, Billy Mack said, the good old days. Ah, yes. The good old days. Indeed. Anyway, that's going to do it for me. Your man, Louie Tee, here on the 286th installment of the Louie Tee Network podcast. I thank you guys for joining me. Look forward to chopping it up with you again next week. And next week, we will really be turning our attention to the start of the regular season. Any fallout from the third week of the preseason, we'll document that. But we really will be turning our attention to the beginning of the regular season and all that entails. And that should be a ton of fun. In the meantime, enjoy your weekend. Oh, I think I got some super chats. I don't want to get out of here without knocking these down. Big Money Sonny, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, my guy. Big Money Sonny, thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Right. The only mess you made was thinking that our DBs are actually good, especially Mr. Fricassee, a.k.a. Triple Baked Ziti. You know I'm not going there with you. I vehemently disagree with your take there. But again, I appreciate you expanding and broadening my horizons and teaching me new lingo and new dishes. So thank you. If nothing else came out of that, fricassee came out of that. Luck, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy Luck writes, can we please get a AD 11 week suspension? He was throwing them things. There is, first of all, I laugh at the fact that 11 is a thing, right? He's an 11-game suspension. It's crazy. Like, I'm anxious to see if they hand out any more 11s or 9s or 7s or anything like that. At the end of the day, with your comments, if I don't know, I don't even ask, who is that? Or what are you talking about? I'm just going to assume you're talking about Aaron Donald, but I don't know if you are or not. But I don't care because you're not going to get me. So now you done messed everything up because now every time I always think there's an ulterior motive with you now. So I'll be like, AD who? D's nuts. Nah, it won't be. You won't get me again. Big Money Sonny, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Big Money Sonny, who writes, remember when is the worst form of conversation? You make it a good one, Lou. Can't wait for the story time, though. It's because it reminds you of your age. That's what remember when does. It dates you. When I tell you stories about Nestle Quick, you're like, oh, shit, Nestle Quick. You-hoo. Oh, you got to be a 90s baby, an early 90s baby at that. You know what I mean? Late 80s. I'm an 80s baby, So it dates you. When I start talking about floppy disk and CD-ROM, it dates you. Okay? So, yeah, it reminds you, hey, your ass ain't young no more. You an old man. You getting up there. I don't mind. I'm blessed to be where I am. So, anyway, I digress. 1/6 Devil Doc, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, Lou, my son asked me and my brother who is the greatest player we've ever seen. That's not a QB. We both said in unison, Barry. We showed him highlights. You probably blew his mind. That's what you just did. And now he probably thinks Barry Sanders is the greatest non-quarterback he's ever seen too. It's hard for you to watch Barry Sanders highlights and not come away saying, wow, if nothing else. People always say Jim Brown is the greatest running back I've ever seen. He's the greatest football player. And I watch Jim Brown highlights and I'm like, yo, Jim was a bad boy. But I never walk away in awe of him like I do watching Barry Sanders. And it just brings back all those memories. And, there were all kinds of stories about Jim Brown, how he would be hurt, but they would never see it. He would get up slow. Like, I love those stories about Jim Brown. He would get up slow after every carry. So you never knew. It was psychological. He would tell you, I always got up slow after plays because I never wanted a guy to know when he got me good. You could never tell, because if I just broke off a 65-yard run and you tackle me at the 4 and I'm hyped, still getting up slow. If you just wallop me after a 5-yard run, still getting up slow. You don't know the difference. And his teammates, there was this aura around him because his teammates said they never saw him in the pink room. Never. The training room, getting work done because he was injured. He said he would always come in 2 hours earlier than the earliest player so that they would never see him in the training room. Like, those are the kind of mythical stories you hear about Jim Brown that takes his legend to another level. But on the field, for me, it's always been and always will be Barry Sanders. Big Money Sonny, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Big Money Sonny writes, Lou, you made me feel super old with your remember wins. I was an adult with all of these stories. Thanks a lot, bro. Thanks a lot. I'm trying to tell you, it dates you a bit. You know what I'm saying? So you like, hey, you got to go back a little bit more for me. Okay. Hey, I'm sorry about that, man. I truly am apologetic. Big Money Sonny, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. who writes, banana milk by Quick. Don't knock it, Lou. Hey, I tried it. It was good. I just wasn't the biggest banana guy. I would prefer strawberry, but we tried all of those flavors. Banana was actually really good. Okay. I've had it before. It was really good. So trust me. I know. All right. I know. I think that's the last one there. And it is. So with that said, we're going to get out of here. I'm going to allow you guys to enjoy your weekend. I look forward to coming back, chopping it up with you next week as we embark upon the 2022 NFL season. It is vastly approaching. We should be getting some college football here shortly. So I don't know if it's this weekend or if it's next week. It's coming up soon, though. So we'll start talking about a little bit of college ball as well. Start folding that into a bit of the conversation. But in any event, enjoy your weekend. I certainly will. And I will see you guys next week here on the Louie Tee Network podcast. Until then, you guys have a good one. God bless. And as always, good night. Louie Tee.